Hi, I'm so happy you're here. My name is Nicole Crone, and I am the host of our podcast here at My Aligned Purpose. I co-founded this company back in the spring of 2020 alongside Caleb Pilecki. You'll get to hear from her every Thursday when we bring you on our famous, highly requested Biz Besties episodes. I trust that you've landed here or keep coming back because you are looking for inspiration and motivation from a real human. And that is my intention. In the 4 years of growing this podcast, I have had the incredible opportunity to support over 1,000 women. Yes, thousands, through our courses and coaching programs. I wasn't always an entrepreneur though. In fact, I was really bought into the societal way of doing things. Go to school, work for someone else, work hard and long, and then retire at 65. Thankfully, my life had a good shakeup in my early 30s and everything has been drastically different since. What you can expect from this podcast is conversations that make you feel like you're sitting down, lounging with me. We've got coffees and comfy clothes, talking about all things mindset, manifestation, entrepreneurship, marketing and messaging, bringing spirituality into our life and business, and so much more. Come along this wild ride where I tell you stories about writing a best-selling book, starting a business and scaling it to 7 figures in the first 3 years, stories of failure and heartache, and everything in between. So turn those notifications on, grab your headphones and your favorite bevy, and let's hang out every Monday morning together. Oh, and one last thing that I want you to know is I'm a regular, everyday human just like you. So if I can live out my dreams of being a chart-topping podcaster, you can live out yours too. I've got you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on My Aligned Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone, and I have our guest with us today is Kristen Constable. Is that how you say your last name, Kristen Constable?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, great. I always love to share, Kristen, when I have somebody on the show, if there's a backstory of how you came to be here. And we were both at this live event maybe about a month ago or so, and we were waiting to go through the door, and you and I just started to strike up conversation and realized we have very similar businesses and we both have podcasts, and we got connected, and I really liked your energy. And I thought, let's have a conversation and introduce you to the My Aligned Purpose world. And I'm going to get to know you alongside of everyone else. Why don't you say hello? Let us know where you're calling in from today and what are you grateful for?
Oh, great. Hello. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love just meeting people organically like that and being just following the breadcrumbs. So it's awesome to be here. I live in North Vancouver in BC, and I live here with my partner and my 7-year-old duck toller. We love the trails and the ocean, and so we get both where we are, which is really nice. And that's actually probably one of the things I'm grateful for is this morning I got to go for a run, and in the mornings I get to just tune in and ask myself, do I want to be in the forest today and like in the trees, or do I want to go to the ocean? And I just see what's calling me. So it's really special to live in this part of the world where I actually get the opportunity to ask that question and be steps away from either place.
So beautiful. And duck tollers, on a side note, are fucking awesome. We had one for 17 years growing up.
Like that my makes whole me life. So happy knowing that he lasted that long, or she lasted that long. Yeah.
17 years. And my sister has 2 duck tollers right now. One's 9 and one's 7. Yeah. Duck tollers are a ball of energy and so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. He actually came over with us to the event that we went to, and we had a little, but he comes everywhere with me. That's the thing. We're just like little buds, and he comes to my co-working space, like all the car rides. And yeah, he's just super chill and just an awesome dog.
Oh, that's so great. And yeah, so good that you're in a part of the world where nature is at your back doorstep and you and your little bud can go on adventures. What I hear in you sharing that of getting up, going for a run and deciding where you want to go today and really allowing that to be the space of what brings you gratitude. It also sounds like you're really in tune with your intuition of what do I really want today? That leads me to when you and I were chatting and then obviously talking about going on each other's podcasts, and I check out what your podcast name is, the Soulful CEO. And tell us a little bit about that. Like, what does that mean to be a soulful CEO from somebody who it sounds like you're also really tapped into your intuition and your inner knowing? Where did the desire for this podcast, this name, this whole movement to be born from? Where did it come from?
Yeah, thanks for asking. This is so fun to answer this question because it's actually the question that I ask all of my guests at the end of the show. What does being a soulful CEO mean to you? And part of the reason I ask that question is that I have my own journey and definition around it, which I'll share in a moment. But it really is around having people see themselves in that like archetype or in that kind of avatar,
Mm,
and it not be a specific thing, it not be like it has to be this. It's more about what does
right.
that mean to you and how do you actually show up in your work and in your life in a way. One of the things, I guess this is where there's some like synergy between our stuff, is that one of the things that almost comes up every single time in what people share about their definition around that is that it's about being in alignment, whatever
Mm,
that means to them. So I love it when people share that, because for some people it means that they're, able to balance being a mom and having their own business. And for other people, being in alignment means going after like these big goals that they go all in on, and their business is like everything. And there's no definition for it. And my own journey around like what Soulful CEO means is, so I come from a corporate background. I did corporate leadership development, and that's how I got into the coaching space. I did leadership coaching. And when I started my own business back in 2016, I started a leadership development consultancy. And I was really lucky in the sense that it like took off pretty much from the beginning. Maybe 6 months it was slow, but like pretty much from the beginning it took off. But I didn't really know how to be an entrepreneur. Not really. Like I did not know how to be an entrepreneur.
mhm,
And I applied a lot of the same kind of like hustle grind ways of being
mm,
that made me successful in the corporate space in my own business. But the problem was, I was lucky enough in the corporate space that I had bosses and organizations, and I had the constraints of needing to go to work and go home. So
right.
I couldn't work 24/7, and I had ththese imposed kind of boundaries. And when I started working for myself, those weren't there. And so I like joke that I was like the worst boss that I ever had, because I would like, I burned myself out in the first year. And I had all this like external success. People who were like, how are you doing it? You built this like great consultancy in the first year. I brought on a business partner, but on the backside, I like needed a break because
Mm,
I like completely burned myself out. So that kind of got me more. And that at the same time, I was exploring my own spiritual journey and what it meant to tap into be myself beyond the like ego identity, and who I was beyond labels and all of that kind of stuff. And so there was this really interesting place in between the like really woo stuff that I was experiencing on my spiritual journey, which was cool. And it was like really interesting, but it
mm,
felt hard to apply and ground in this physical world. And then I had the like corporate hustle kind of stuff on one end, which I could see the benefits of it because it was like move things forward. It was like goal oriented, could create a lot of cool stuff. But it was this like intersection of these two worlds that
mm,
where I found the magic for myself. And so that's how I speak about Soulful CEO, is it's this place of duality where like oppositions and polarities can coexist, and we can play with, whether it be, people often speak to the masculine and feminine energies and things like that, and how we can find ways for both of those to exist, or all of our values to coexist, or our competing desires to coexist, and create beautiful businesses that serve not only the world but all of the aspects of our life. So long
mm.
answer to your question, but it was definitely a journey to get there. So I wanted to give context to all of it.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that every single entrepreneur I've ever talked to has a journey, right? It's very rare that I've met somebody that they're in their business now in 2025 and knew right off the hop from when they left school. Yeah, I'm going to be a life coach, business coach, a healer, a guide, whatever it is. I knew that. And
Yeah.
most people, 99% of the time, they've got a journey. And it's important to share because the whole purpose of this podcast is for the listener to hear themselves in our stories of you and
Mhm.
I are everyday people like the people listening, and we had a desire for something different or something more, and we really had to go on a journey of figuring out what that meant for us. And I heard you say in the work of blending in these spiritual practices that you started to remove the labels from yourself. And
Mhm.
I'd like to go there for a second because I think it's really important and it can be really juicy conversation to talk about, okay, there are labels that people are putting on themselves, women in particular. In your work, what labels do you see your clients most often come in with that they
Mm,
are working to, maybe they don't even know. They don't even
yeah.
know they have this label on them. And then through working with you, you can see, do you know that you're labeling yourself in this way or putting the ceiling on yourself? And it's your work to help them see themselves in another way. What would be some common labels that you see?
Yeah, I love this conversation because identity work is really a big part of the work that I do with people because it's so important to creating the results that people want. Is if we don't see ourselves in the outcome that we're out to achieve, we can say, I want a 7-figure business. But if you don't actually, it doesn't have to be 7 figures, it can be whatever the number is. But if you don't actually see yourself in that, then it's not going to happen. We're going to subconsciously sabotage ourselves. We're going to limit our opportunities, all of that kind of thing. So I think a big one that a lot of people I work with come in with is this idea that they're not good at sales because a lot of people, or sales and marketing, let's just say, because a lot of the people that I work with are really great. We'll call them like practitioners. Like they're amazing at what they do. They've done what they've done forever and they get great results with people. But it's then how do they package that and talk about it and sell it? And there's this like stigma almost around what selling means and not wanting to feel pushy or salesy or gross or all whatever comes along with that, cringy. And so we really have to dismantle what that means and why they have those beliefs and then look for ways that don't bypass that for them, but instead find a way to do it in an aligned way. Because the truth is, there's probably people
Mhm.
out there that are doing what they're doing in a way that they like. So if
Yeah.
we can look for those examples, then they can see themselves, like you're saying in the stories, and then be able to transform the way that they relate to selling, doing social media, marketing, all of that kind of stuff. That's a big one. And then this one, it goes pretty deep, but I don't think there's many people. Some people argue that this is a core wound of every human. It's like one of our like things that
Mm.
we come into the world with. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it comes down to worthiness. And
I knew
so
that you were going to say that. I was like, she's going to say worthiness. I know it.
yeah. And I don't know, like for you, do you see that in your clients and even in your own story? Is yeah. And so it's not, I don't see it as being something around like deficient. Oh, you're deficient because you don't have good self worth or something like that. I think that's actually a call a battle, but it's like not a battle. It's just more like a ongoing dynamic that every human has, especially as we're up leveling. So you'll get to a certain level. I know this was for me, it was the $100,000 mark. And I was like,
Mm.
in my like subconscious brain, I made up this story that like my dad made $100,000 growing up. The funny part about this was like that game of life. I don't know if
Mhm.
you ever remember it. Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
highest
I
salary you
do.
could get. Yes. And the highest salary you could get in that game was $100,000. And I
Oh.
remember being a kid and playing that. And this was not conscious for me. It dropped in like way later, but it was like I made that connection. $100,000 was like a lot of money. And
Mhm.
so I had this set point, this upper limit around how much I was able to make because that was like the most amount of money that you can make. So until I could see that and had this label of, okay, my worthiness is I was able to like work through the blocks to get there. But then once
Mm.
I got there, the next label was like, oh, like maybe I'm actually worthy of more. Maybe I could actually go after 7 figures or multiple 6 figures and that I could see myself in that. And so I
Mm.
think like with the clients, it's the same, whether it be about money goals, and that's an easy one to talk about because it's very tangible, but it shows up in just even being able to share their thoughts and their voice. Am I worthy of taking up space? As is what I'm saying matter? Does what I'm saying matter? Those are the kinds of things that are like the undercurrent that really can impact our results. And we just have to look, and it can, one of the most simple exercises I do with people that can help is this idea of the small I am and then the big I am. So, like, our big I am is like everything, right? It's like soul, essence, whatever you want to call it. But then
Yeah.
we have all of these small I ams, like I am a mother, I am a business owner, I am, and we have positive labels and negative labels. And so when we can just start to listen for and identify with what are we saying? I am good at sales. I'm not good at sales. Then we can start to see what identity and labels are serving and which ones are not.
Mm. Yeah, I love this whole conversation. The worthiness piece is so big and it's so deep. And like you, it's interesting that the story that you attach it to is the $100,000 because I have yet to meet anyone, to work with anyone who isn't stalled or plateaued at their current financial situation, the revenue that they make or the dollar amount that they charge, and it isn't directly tied to worthiness. I've never
Mm,
met anybody yet. And when Kayla and I, my business partner, we started My Line Purpose 5 years ago in June. And when we started off with a course called Manifesting Money Masterclass, and it had four
mm,
pillars. And that course we ended up selling to 600 plus people. And every single person of the 600 people, it fell into the four pillars. The first one was we've got to get behind the belief that money is energy.
mhm,
Then that's module one, money is energy. Module two is your beliefs around money. Module three is clarity around money. What do you actually want? You're saying you want a 7 figure business, but what do you want with that money? What do you
yeah.
want to do with your life? And then the fourth module is worthiness around money.
Mm,
And because it is wild, it's wild the stories and the impact that our worth has. And I think, especially on women, what we get to charge, what we
yeah.
get to earn, what we get to spend, what we get to save, what we get to give away. And there's just so much deep work there. And I'm so happy that you brought this up because it just reinforces to everybody who's listening. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I want to charge more, I want to make more, I want to do more. And then you're wondering, like, but what's holding me back? Like, I have the
Mhm.
systems in place, I have the strategy, I hired the business coach. You might want to consider looking at your worth and
Yeah.
what you feel you're worthy of charging and receiving around this
Yes.
product or this service. Yeah, it's so deep.
It is. And I think that that's one of the things that can people avoid looking because
Mm.
it's okay, what do I do with that? Yeah, I understand that I don't feel worthy of the goal or whatever, but then what do I do with that? And if we don't look, part of the biggest part, I think, of the process is to make what's unseen seen because we
Mhm.
can't work with it unless it's seen. So it's like the initial like inquiry around like, where are you having these, say, patterns of repeating patterns. So it could be like you keep getting to a certain income level and you plateau, or you have some like high income months and then you have like a drought. And
Mhm.
so starting to look at what are those patterns and how are they playing out? And then just bring awareness to what is that? What is that all about? And you don't have to necessarily do anything with it's just the seeing of it and catching it and noticing and then stretching your capacity to be with discomfort in that actually creates the change. I think that for people that are listening, it's okay, I see these patterns and they just keep showing up and then they get frustrated or they might feel frustrated about it. But that's really the process of transformation is just continuing to look and then continuing to see and be with the discomfort and it will like transmute and change just by not avoiding it and pretending it's not there.
I love this. I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction right now. And I want to go to the place of social media. We're online business owners. The majority of people listening are, or we've got some clients that have brick and mortar businesses, but let's be real, unless you're going out and putting posters up on telephone poles, you also have online marketing
Yeah.
and sales to be done. So the online space is there. And I don't know about your algorithm and your feed and what you've experienced over the years, but sometimes it can be a real drag. It can be
Mm-hmm.
hard on the mindset. There can be comparison that slips in. There can be, I'm not doing enough. And then also an annoyance of why is this person saying this thing? It's so cringy and it's not true and it's false marketing and all these sorts of things. So let's go to social media for a moment. Tell me a love hate relationship you have with it. What is something that you love about having access to social media with your business? And what is something currently, we're recording in February 2025, that really annoys you and or ruffles
Mm-hmm.
your feathers or whatever it might be when it comes to having social media in the online space?
Yeah. Oh, such a good conversation. And I'm glad we're having this because I think it's can be easy for people to who are just getting started to be like, it's just a them thing. But I've been in business since 2016. You guys have been around, it sounds like, for 5+ years. And so it's not, I don't know, my experiences, it's not something you just like figure out and then it's sorted. It's like an ongoing relationship. And
like going to the gym, you don't go to the gym and
totally.
reach your body composition or goal weight and then say, I'm done, I'm throwing in the towel and I'm never coming back.
Yes. And then there's seasons, right? So there's
Mhm.
going to be seasons. There's been seasons in my business where I've gone like all in on social and it's been like my main source of client acquisition. And then there's seasons like what I'm currently in right now where I use it, but I'm not relying on it necessarily as my main source of client acquisition. So what I love about social media and the tools that we get to use for free is that we get access to millions, billions of people. And it's pretty cool. Like, I have an international clientele. And so the fact that I get to work with women in Australia, Europe, I've had a client who's from Japan show up on the calls at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
But I would have never been able to create those connections if it wasn't for social media. So it is like truly such a gift. And the fact that we get to use it for free and the only thing that we have to do is put in our like time and labor, very cool that we have that opportunity. And we were actually just talking about this at dinner the other night. We were having dinner with friends and we were thinking about like before the social media like era. I'm 41. So it's not that I've always had social, but it's definitely not been the same as it has been recently as Facebook. And you'd write like little, can't wait to see you this weekend or something on there.
Yeah. Tag your friend and make a post about them on your own wall or
Totally.
my sister and I were talking about the absolute ridiculousness of what we used to name our photo albums on Facebook. And
Yes.
then knowing that like our mom was on our Facebook and could see
Oh
the
my
names
gosh.
of the whole thing. It's a whole other
Yeah. It was. We had to talk to one of my friends because from our 20s, she had these albums that were like not okay to be on the internet anymore.
world.
Like,
Yeah.
we're like, you have to take these down. Like, we have
Yeah.
like businesses and kids. Like, you can't do this. Yeah, it was like just a different era when it came to social media. But anyways, we were talking about how before social media was what it is, if you did an in-person event and you had 40 people show up and you had an evening where you're an interaction where you could talk with them, that would feel pretty cool, right? It would be like, wow, I had 40 people's attention and I had 40 people I could share my message with. And now if we get 40 views on our story, we're like, what the hell? It's a thing, right? We're like not happy, not satisfied with that kind of reach. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting that we have the ability to have this like massive reach, the ability to get in front of so many people. And at the same time, this kind of segues into what's frustrating about it is that I think it's like the more thing. I'm not personally interested at this point in my work because I have someone who helps me a little bit with it, but it's mostly like scheduling like the posts. So it's like I write all of my posts, I create all of them. So I'm not interested in posting 3-4 times a day. Like that's not where I am interested in spending my time. But it's easy to fall into the trap of that's what it takes to win on social today because it's becoming just like more and more. And it's okay if you want to break through the noise, you have to post more, or if you want to break through the noise, you've got to create like viral content which might not feel super like aligned or meaningful to you. So I think it's the dance between using it as a tool in a way that works for your goals and in a way that feels somewhat aligned. Like it's that dance, and there might be trade-offs of that. So it's if I'm not willing to post more than, let's say, 5 times a week, then I do have to level set my expectations on what my growth is going to look like. And I can't get frustrated when it's like not growing as fast as someone who's posting 3 times a week because they're doing 3 times the amount of work. So I think that's really the relationship that I've had with it is like learning how to use it as a tool to serve my goals for that moment in time and really understanding what it takes to win on certain platforms and not get like emotional about it. Just be like, am I willing to do that? Like, as a comparison, is right now I'm training for a half marathon, and I have done half marathons before. I've never done a full marathon because after I finished training for a half marathon, I'm like, I could not do more than this. Like, I am not willing to run more than this. So I can't achieve that goal. That's just not that doesn't make sense for my lifestyle, how I want to operate. So I think that's the thing is I'll work with some clients and they post sporadically and and then they get frustrated that they're not getting the kind of like results that they want to see. And so if you just level set expectations there, and sometimes what I say to clients and how I'm using social media these days is that it's more of an interactive website where people can come and learn about me and I can point people, I can connect with people, and I can use it like to share offers and stuff like that. But I'm not using it to go out and message like 75 people a day and put them into a funnel and get them on a conversion call. I might again in the future. I've done that and it works, but that's just not, I don't need to do that given like the business model I have right now. It's not a volume business model. So yeah, I think that's my answer to that question. It's like finding the relationship that works for you and your goals, and then not getting sucked into the idea that you always need to do more, but also not getting frustrated when what you're doing isn't growing you like someone who's maybe doing the more kind of thing.
And I love the comparison to a real life situation of, yeah, you literally will not cross the line of the full marathon when you're training for the half. Like
Mm-hmm.
it won't happen. But
Mm-hmm.
you'll cross that line at that half marathon. And I'm sure you're going to feel really damn good about it because that's the expectation you're setting for yourself. And it's what you're training for and going for and setting yourself up to achieve. And I do think that I think this is such a good reminder for everybody listening because everybody is we're all at different stages of business. Like you said, you've been in this, sounds like 8+ years. We've been in it just almost 5. And then another thing too is there's myself and Kayla. There's two of us who get to work this full time. We've never had a
Mm-hmm.
plan B. From the beginning, it's been my line purpose or bust, and we're going to figure out a way. And I see people come in and they've still got their 9 to 5 or corporate job. And I admire that. I admire
Mm-hmm.
the, wow, you're really trying to build this out in the evenings, on the weekends, in your pockets of time, on a lunch break. And just give yourself some grace that you
Yeah.
don't have the 40+ hours or 30+ hours to put into your business the way somebody else might have right now.
Yeah.
And it really is a risk that you have to take to say, I'll see a lot of people, and I wonder if you experience this as well. We'll see a lot of women who, like you were mentioning, the set point was $100,000, the game of life. It's what you saw with your dad. It was this like subconscious belief. And I think what we've experienced a lot of over the years, and I was guilty of it myself going into entrepreneurship, is the set point being what we were paid in an employment role. If somebody's paid $75,000 a year in their corporate job or government job or whatever it is, and then they come to us and they want to build out an online business, the expectation is I need to make at least $75,000 a year. And I can't leave my job until I'm
Mm-hmm.
making that. Where the hell are you going to find the time
Yeah.
unless you take that risk and say, I'm going to take a few months, I've saved some money, I'm going to go all in and pour the hours and energy and dedication into my business, and then know that if it doesn't maybe pan out the way you expected in your mind, you are employable, you are educated, the universe
Yeah.
always has your back. You can go get that job again, but you might have to at some point decide to take a risk and say, I'm going to go all in on my business if I want all in results.
Yes, I love this. I think it's especially coming from people like you and I, who you've got like your thing is about like aligned purpose. My thing is Soulful CEO. And so this is where the intersection happens is just because something's aligned doesn't mean that it needs to feel like easy.
Mm-hmm.
Being on purpose and like going after creating a business around your purpose probably won't. Like it's
You're
going
going
to
to have
be,
your
yeah.
challenges.
Yeah, and there might be seasons like at the beginning where you're going to have to work more. And it's if you are wanting to say have a bit more cush and stay in a job or something like that, it might mean you have to work like late nights, evenings, and weekends. And although that might not be ideal forever, it's like there's no silver bullet. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's no fast track. There's no, oh, you're just going to get the secret strategy from somebody. And you're going to be, and that's actually one of the things that drives me nuts about social media is like
Me
some of the
too.
false promises around that.
It's my pet
Because
peeve.
yes, it does people such a disservice. And yeah, you can be making X number like a month in no time. And it's these people that are like really just like manipulating basically people into this idea that it's going to be easy. Now, does it
Mm-hmm.
need to be hard? Do you need to like, does it need to be painful and all that stuff? No, but that's a mindset piece more than anything. But the work that needs to go in is we all have to do the work. It's no one gets a shortcut there.
Exactly. I think for all of my pet peeve is the coaches who say my clients paid me this much money and they're talking about is how much money they make and
Mm-hmm.
not the results their clients are getting, and therefore you should hire me because I make this much money. And then it continues to cycle through, and then like their coach will talk about how much money they're making because it's paid through. So there's, we don't have to name any names, but I'm sure we all know the thread of coaches who coach coaches. And a lot of our clients are coaches. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but there is a whole other side of the internet where it gets real dicey and manipulative and false marketing. And it's frustrating because I can see where people come from when they're nervous to invest in coaching, when they're nervous to join a mastermind because we've been there before where we've been burned,
Yeah.
really sold a false dream. And yeah, I can see where people get frustrated. And yeah, that is the side of the internet that is, yeah, quite annoying.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a moment about who is your ideal client and who's not.
This has evolved over the last year, and that's one of the things I love about having my own business is it gets to be a vehicle for my own expression and where my interests are lying and my own evolution. And up until last year, I would say I was really supporting service based business owners, mostly coaches and consultants, start and scale to about their first 100K. And so that was about 4 years of doing that work. And it was awesome. And I loved it. And I had a great program that I was running. And then there just became this point where I wanted to get more niched and I wanted to really focus in on an area and skill set that I have a lot of expertise and skill in that I wasn't really, I was doing a little bit of it, but not a lot. Over the past year, I've transitioned into people who have already have their business, it's up and running, they're doing their thing, but they haven't yet built that signature body of work around
Mm,
their work. And that's to me what that like next level is for people. It's and you don't a lot of people don't even want to go there. So that's fine. It doesn't need to be the natural evolution. But there are a group of people that are like, I've been doing what I've been doing for a while. I have something that's, I feel like I've got something that's ownable and that I want to make mine and it become this like thing that I'm known for. And then that's where I come in and help them actually create and package that and then sell it as well. And not just be about one signature offer, but really be this like cohesive body of work that they can build talks around if they want to do a book around it or offers, whatever that looks like. And that works really fun because to me, it's like super creative and we get
mm,
to bring things to life, which is awesome. And then obviously figuring out like what are the channels to sell it through, but it's a little bit different than how do I get my first few clients in terms of that kind of positioning. So that's
yeah.
who I'm supporting these days inside of my mastermind. And then I have an upcoming program that's also going to be more of an intensive around that. And yeah, over the years, I've maybe not so explicitly, but implicitly, the people that I tend to attract are people who want to do the inner work as well as the like outer work. Because
Mhm.
as we've been talking about, is especially going into this next level that I'm working with these women in, is that it's really around positioning yourself as like a leader in your space. And
Mhm.
so there's a lot of, so it's not just about if someone just wants to like hardcore do these steps, I'm probably not the person for them. But if you want to look at the identity piece and like up leveling that and putting that piece around it, then that's where I'm probably a good fit.
Beautiful. I can tell in the way that you speak and your the way you describe the work that you do that you are incredibly heart-centered and that you are soulful in the work that you do. And I think that it's becoming more and more rare these days in the
Mm-hmm.
online space and in the coaching industry. I think like we were both saying a moment ago, there's a lot of people who just want like a quick overnight fix, $97 offer this, $49 offer that,
Yeah.
and make sales left and center. And we're also in the belief that if you build a body of work, you build a brand, you build a reputation, you build something you're known for that makes impact, that is going to go with you lengths
Hmm.
and journeys, and it really will make a difference in the world. I can
Yeah.
tell in the way that you talk that's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Totally. And it can be, that's one of the things that is can be really tricky for people to navigate because it is a longer play.
Mhm.
It's not the thing that's going to click in right away because it takes time. It takes time to articulate that unique positioning. It takes time to really show up in the same, like what you guys have done for the last 5 years. You've showed up with the
Mhm.
same brand, with the same kind of, I would imagine, messaging. You said you've been doing this podcast for 5 years consistently. Like it is the long game. And if you're committed to the long game, there's so much juice available there, but it does require, like one of the things I'll say with clients a lot of the times when they, because we all doubt at times and we all
Oh
get
yeah.
frustrated at times. And so I'll just get them to check in. I'm like, are you committed to this? Are you playing the infinite game here? And
Mhm.
if you're not playing the infinite game, then it's a different strategy. But if you are playing the infinite game, then it's just about continuous action and refinement and working in what I call like cycles. We'll do these, they're called like soulful sales cycles. And every cycle, we look at what did we learn? What can we refine and how do we move forward? And then
Mm.
it just becomes this like constant, and you never know where it's going to end up necessarily, but because you're learning along the way. And so you'll be like, oh, I didn't even have awareness that this is where that piece was going to go or where that relationship was going to take me.
Mhm.
But it's just about being committed to the long-term game. And yeah, that's definitely what I'm committed to in my work. And I love working with people who are like that too. And it's not just about like, how do I make 10K a month the fastest way possible?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in hearing you talk about that, the infinite game, it makes me think that if we use our reticular activating system, our RAS, which is our net of proof, right? Like asking it to filter things in and leave things out, we get to ask it to look for proof of exactly what we want. In hearing you say that, I think about when I start to get frustrated of the timeline and I want things faster and whatever. I remember that I'm also in the long game, the infinite game here. And then I remind myself to look for proof of people
Mm-hmm.
who have built businesses this way. And that's
Yeah.
actually more admirable to me. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. If you want to look to proof for people who just shot up, went viral, and sell something on repeat over and over again, I love that is your proof and that works for you. My proof is more the people like the Sarah Blakeleys, the Tony
Mm-hmm.
Robbins, the Amy Porterfields, the people that have built 10 plus years in their business and they continue to say the same thing
Yeah.
and sell the same thing and live a really obviously I don't know these people that I've just described like wholeheartedly and intimately, but what I gather, because they're not dancing around on the internet all the time, is that they're actually out living their life and enjoying
Mm-hmm.
their life with the people they care about and their pets and doing the things they want to do because they have a sustainable business that sets them free.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you bring that up because Amy Porterfield, for example, like she's been doing the same stuff, like really like her stuff. If I were to think about what she's known for, email marketing, like I
Mhm.
think about her as the go to person for that. And what's really interesting about that is that she's obviously got way more like business knowledge to share. And she
Mhm.
could be talking about so many other things, but she gets that like by being narrow and focused she can own a certain space.
Yeah.
And I see that being, I know I deal with that myself, like even narrowing down over the last year to this, it's been like, whoo, that's been work to get there. And it with my clients, it's a lot of the same stuff too. It's like really just getting narrowed into what is the specific thing that you could be like the best at and really own that space and become known for, and be okay with your business being like an expression of you, but not, it's never going to be all of you.
Yeah.
Like we are way too multidimensional and complex beings to put it into some sort of container. And when we try to do that from, this is like for my like spiritual folks, is that when we try to do that, it becomes super messy. And so it's like finding a way for it to be an expression, but it doesn't need to be everything because we need our expression and like what we want to do in the world to meet a market need. It can't just
Mhm.
be our hobby where we just do things because we want to do them. That can be not a super fun path to go down.
Described very well, yes. Kristen, before we get to where can people find you and what's for sale and what do you have coming up and all of that great stuff, I want to say first off that this conversation I know is going to be incredibly valuable for everyone who listens. And I really like your energy. It feels really in integrity and yeah, like a nice grounded, calm energy. So thank you for bringing that here today. I want to hear, I'm a really big dreamer by nature,
Mm.
and I love hearing people's dreams. If you and I were to connect, I'll let you choose the timeline. If it's a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, what would you love to come back and say, holy shit, I experienced that?
Oh my gosh, that's like such a big question. I experienced that. Wow. Okay. I can share one of my big dreams is like in terms of one of the things I'm working towards is that I want to have a retreat center where people who are heart centered, who are doing their, I call soul work in the world, can come and use the space and share their gifts and just be able to have that kind of curated experience for them. So that's one of the things that is like out there on my vision board and the timeline I'm not attached to. I just know that will be something that I'm doing at some point in the future. So, in terms of what I would want to experience before that is I'm in this like space of learning around that and I want to experience as many people's like teachings that are aligned as possible and then also spaces that feel really nourishing. So one
Mhm.
of the things that I want to be doing a lot more of is like going out and having these like lived experiences with people who are great at what they do and not just have it through this medium that feels like it's great, but it's like having that more of those lived experiences.
Mm. I had full body chills when you said retreat center. I was like, ooh, I
Yes.
let me know when it's ready. I want an invite.
You will get one. Yeah, it's for sure. It's one of those things that is, there's probably certain things for you that you like know are in your timeline. You just don't know where and
Mhm.
when. And I can see how all of my experiences, I ran restaurants when I was young. And so the hospitality piece is there, the travel piece is there. So it's all coming together. And I just don't feel like we have enough great spaces. I was talking to actually our mutual friend Kyla about this the other day because I was saying I host retreats and I'm not happy with the venues. I'm like, I
Mhm.
want a venue that feels like magical and like connected and community oriented. And I just haven't been able to find the like great venues. It comes from partly that place. And if anyone knows great venues, if you're listening, you're like, I have a spot, reach out to me, let me know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. We host the past 4 years, it's been retreat style. And this year it's moving to event style. It's the first year that we're going and creating something like much bigger than we've created before and inviting people that aren't our clients. Like it's always been a
Cool.
retreat for our clients.
Yeah.
And yeah, the experience of finding a place that feels 5 star, roll out the red carpet,
Mm-hmm.
you are taken care of. It's not easy. They say, write the book that you wish you could read and build the retreat center you wish you
Yeah.
could go to. I can't
Totally.
wait to see what comes from that. Okay, so Kristen, where can people find you? What do you have coming up? Let's just say if this is mid-Feb, it'll be released early March. What do you have
Mhm.
going on? Where can people work with you, hang out with you, listen to you, all of that great stuff?
Yeah, awesome. So the best place probably to connect with me on social would be Instagram. So it's at Kristen Constable. And then it's getting released around March. Every quarter, I host it's called The Ritual, and it's a half day virtual retreat for soul led business owners to come together and plan out, we call it like get aligned with your mind, body, soul, and goals.
Mm,
So this one coming up is going to be super fun. We have a movement practice, we have like business workshops, and those happen every quarter. So you can find all of my upcoming offerings on Instagram or at my website, www.soulfulceo.co.
okay, beautiful. And that
Yeah,
is virtual, you said.
that one's virtual. Yeah, so you can join from wherever.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here today. I loved getting to know you along with everyone else getting to know you and hearing a little bit about your story. And yeah, I can't wait to stay connected and see where our paths may continue to
Yeah.
align. And yeah, just really grateful to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And tell me about when your event comes. I would be interested in that too.
She leads everyone. It's happening April 25th and 26th here in Victoria at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel. And we
Oh,
have
that's a nice one.
yeah, it's a nice one.
Yeah.
We hosted our retreat there last year, and I've shared this on previous podcasts, but our first retreat that we hosted was virtual because the whole world was shut down and we couldn't go anywhere. And then the second year we went to Sparkling Hill in Vernon.
Mhm.
We heard Oprah had been there. We were like, that's where we're going to host. And it was actually mediocre. It was coming off the back of the pandemic. And so service was not 5 star. And then the year after that, we went to the Brentwood Bay Resort here on Vancouver Island. Again, last minute, they decided to do a whole bunch of construction and remodeling.
Oh,
So not ideal. And then last year, we hosted at Oak Bay Beach Hotel and they rolled out the red carpet, 12 on
mm.
10 experience. We had a client fly in from New Zealand and her mom flew in from the UK and they met up together here. They'd never been to BC and brought her newborn baby with her. And the
Oh,
Oak Bay Beach Hotel had stuffies, like teddy bears ready.
wow.
And just, yeah, the whole experience was amazing. So when we checked out and paid our bill at the end, we just said, book us in for 2025 because this
That's
was an
awesome.
incredible experience.
That sounds great. That
Yeah.
sounds like a really great event.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. We'll be back again next week with more episodes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go leave a rate and review and head on over. I'm going to have Kristen's Instagram in the show notes. Go click that, get connected with her, and let her know what you loved, what part of her story really resonated with you. Thank you.
Find out the fastest way to grow your business without sacrificing more time or adding more one-on-one clients now. Go to mylinepurpose.com/quiz and get your results.